Brad, Tammy, Walt, Steve, Jen, and Ed, and possibly Jim will join us here shortly. Town Administrator Lisa and Karen. And then we also have the town attorney here and Mr. Matt Simpkins and Connor Horn. Did everybody have a chance to review the minutes? Need a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
To approve?
Okay, Ed and Walt second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Minutes are approved.
Brad, since it's virtual, let's go ahead and do that roll call.
Okay, Steve, approve?
Yes.
Walt, approve? Okay, Walt is approved. Tammy,
Yes.
Jen,
Yes.
and Ed.
Yes.
Okay, we have a roll call approval.
And Jim is here now. Did you catch
And
that?
Jim is here. Jim, are you available? Okay, we got approval for the minutes. We'll roll through on the next piece. Let's see here.
What just happened?
Here, thank you. For our old business,
Oh,
we have discussion and consideration of subdivision entry minors for the Weddington Acres. Lisa, can you take over? Lisa, you ready?
Sorry, I was muted.
All right.
I was
here we go.
halfway done. I was halfway done.
Oh, nice. All right, we'll start over. How about that?
All right. So you guys reviewed this at your last meeting, July 27th. You expressed concerns with the amount of traffic on Weddington Matthews Road and Antioch Church Road and being able to have 3 cars stack, not from the gate, but from the call box, and then having the ability for a second car to pass if someone gets stuck at the call box. So the applicant was able to amend the plan. In front of you is the Weddington Matthews Road site plan. The call box is located here on the screen. We have 21 feet from that call box, and we have 60 feet to the edge of pavement, which is back here. A typical parking spot is 9 by 20, so we have plenty of room to kind of maneuver and get 3 cars to stack right there. And then same for Antioch Church Road. Again, right here's your edge of pavement, and then 60 feet from this call box to the edge of pavement. We have 20 feet from the edge of the curb, wide. I'd be happy to answer any questions, and Weston Bowles and Connor Horn are on the Zoom call to answer any questions as well.
From the planning board components, from my personal look at it, it looks like they've entered the needs that we were looking at from an individual perspective. Did anybody have any other questions with that? Is anybody not comfortable with what the adjustments that the applicant has made?
I think they did a good job.
Tammy, you good?
Yes, I agree. It looks much better.
Okay. Jen?
Good.
I agree.
Jen, you're okay, and Ed?
Yep.
Yeah, I think they were responsive to our request.
Okay. Walt, are you okay with that?
Absolutely.
Okay, I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Okay, all in
Second.
favor? Well, I guess I got to do the roll call thing. Walt, you in favor?
Yes.
Okay. Tammy, are you in favor?
Yes.
Jen, are you in favor?
Yes.
Jim, are you in favor?
Yes.
Ed, are you in favor?
Yes.
Okay, I believe we have a unanimous approval. Lisa, is that all we need for that particular component?
Yes, thank you.
All right. Thank you for the applicants. Appreciate your work and making those changes for us.
Thank you.
Yes. Thanks for the help with approval.
Yes, sir. Moving on to item B, discussion recommendation of conditional zoning amendment for Christ South. Lisa, can you take over?
Thank you. Christ Lutheran Church requests conditional zoning for church use on 12.739 acres. It's at the northwest corner of Ray and Reed Dairy Road. The site was approved and rezoned back in October of 2018 with conditions agreed upon by the applicant, which was listed in last month's report. Since that approval, they have purchased the Matthews property, which is an existing home located right here, and the property Ms. Matthews still lives in that house. But it was amended to add that parcel to the overall plan. And then a second amendment was approved in December of 2019 to allow preschool use within the existing single-family home that's closest to Ray Road. That preschool is conditioned to a maximum number of 20 students, and the hours of operation shall be no more than 4 days a week and no more than 4 hours per day. Any change shall be brought back to the town council. The applicant is now seeking an amendment to build phase 1, which includes, it's the shaded gray area on the screen. This includes the little barn, which is a new building that they're going to build. The hospitality barn, which is an existing accessory structure with a porch. The lawn area, they're including the existing building because that is Miss Matthews' residence, and then the parking for phase 1. The parking was separated into sections, which avoids large expanses of asphalt, which our code talks about. Our code requires 4 seats in this, 4 seats in the sanctuary plus 1 space for each employee. So approximately 242 seats of 60 parking spaces are required and 66 spaces have been provided. They have a 50-foot screening buffer around the property, which is required by code. And then they have included their conceptual elevations. It has a fiber cement lap siding, wooden barn doors, overhead doors, and a metal roof. That screening, elevations, landscape plan, and signage will come back to you all through that design review board process during the construction plan phase. There's a few changes to the development standards, which I've listed in the staff report. And again, because this is a conditional zoning, we have to adopt that land use plan consistency statement, which I've highlighted also in the staff report. And with that, I am going to introduce Matt Simpkins with Christ Lutheran Church to kind of go over some history of why you're seeing this again and some of their future plans.
Hey guys, nice to see everybody, even though it's not in real person. It's great to see you all, and again, thank you so much for the work that you do for all of us in the town of Weddington in general. It means a lot. Hey, talking to Lisa, it was kind of, we just realized we really need to kind of tell you a little bit of history because you saw us recently and you saw some different things. I think I called Lisa back.
I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yeah. So I called Lisa back in, I think it was like February or March when we were trying to be proactive right at the beginning of the pandemic. And said, hey, we're not going to be able to be back in the school. We're pretty sure this summer we won't be able to be there. And we're concerned that this fall we might not be able to be there because we meet in a school. And so I just said, what are some options? What can we do? What if we put up a tent, because surely this thing's going to be done by the summer and we can just, ride it out in a temporary structure. And she was trying to help us figure that out. And then we realized that the pandemic was going to last probably a whole lot longer than that. So we started thinking maybe something semi-permanent, so that, when ladies were walking into church, their high heels and whatnot wouldn't be sinking into, marshy grass underneath a tent. And what we didn't do was that we didn't change our timeline. we kind of kept the same timeline. And as we were thinking, oh my gosh, we really need to re-sort out what we're doing, we kept that almost temporary use permit tent-based timeline. And so the reason that you're seeing all this is that I kind of brought my team together and said, we have to take a timeout. We've got to make sure that what we do makes sense for the longevity of what we're going to do, because more and more we talked about what we were doing, it just seemed like we were heading towards more of a permanent structure. So we went back to all of the information that we'd gotten with the town of Weddington. We went and read that survey. I don't know if you guys have read that entire survey that the town of Weddington did about what we wanted as a town, what we wanted to see happen, and what kinds of things we wanted to do. And we took a lot of that and said, how do we make something that the town's really going to love? And that's what we've been working on for the last couple of years. And so we brought all of that master planning, and then this move to kind of go ahead and step into having a place for us to be able to worship and enjoy the land, and brought it all into the same meeting and said, we've got to do something different. And so the reason you're seeing something different from us is because we have no desire to come halfway into this. And we want you to see everything that we're going to do so that you're really comfortable with the entirety of what ultimately is going to be there. So while we're just talking phase one right now, I wanted this planning board to really see the entirety of the master plan. And what you've got right in front of you is it. It is a green space focused, community driven church, but it's really kind of a new way to think about church. Normally when you see church, you got a great big building, you got a great big parking lot, and the focus is all about that Sunday morning. We'd like to figure out possibilities to meet people throughout the week in lots of different ways and make this a space that Weddington wants. We heard over and over again, you wanted community space, you wanted green space, you wanted a place to be able to take your family, like a park. You wanted a place to be able to go and get some takeout and sit out on a lawn and enjoy some beautiful space. And so we created our space to be almost like it. Lisa, if you can pull up that little barn, the elevations, we put these big overhead doors on it. So basically we could almost back up one, please. Yes, thank you. Where you could basically open up almost the entirety of the building and have kind of an indoor-outdoor pavilion. So we're thinking of opportunities to partner up with the town of Weddington that give us a chance to be a resource for the town of Weddington. And yet also we can use that space for our Sunday gatherings whenever we're able to actually get back together again. So I just wanted you to see the whole thing. I wanted you to know why we came back to you and said, hey, time out. But if we're going to bring something to the town of Weddington, we wanted to bring the best of what we were going to do, rather than feeling like we were, running ragged on a timeline that didn't make sense. And so I think we even punted 1 month that we were planning on coming to work all this stuff through, and said, we got to do it. Got to do it the right way. So what you're getting is the fullness of that master plan. And if there are any questions about what we're doing, what we're about, I'd love to answer those questions. I met with Mayor Callis last week to give her a heads up as to what was kind of coming down the pike. And a lot of the things that you see here are from conversations with Lisa and with Mayor Callis to create a space that the town would actually be able to use, not just something that was all about us as a church.
All right, so the last plan you all saw was a metal building, and it has since changed. We've kind of mentioned that if that's a permanent structure, that doesn't fit, the surrounding area, so in our architectural standards. So we've kind of pressed pause, and I've asked them to kind of do a full plan, so you guys, when this phase one comes through, you guys kind of can see it as a whole. Phase two, which is the left side or south side of this plan, will have to come back through you all as another conditional district amendment. So tonight we're looking for a recommendation on just this phase one.
Okay. On sheet AS 101, and just as a point of clarity, tell me a little bit more about the farm to table and the coffee shop and the little barn and how that's utilized. Just
I'm not sure what the farm to table and coffee shop, you're talking about the hospitality barn and the harvest house?
Well, I'm just looking at your notes, and at the bottom of sheet AS 101, it talks about the big barn, farm to table.
Oh, yeah,
shop, little barn.
That's odd that that reads farm to table. That should read the Harvest House. All right, so the hospitality barn is a place where we'll have coffee, and it's where I'll probably do most of my office hours. Imagine if you went into, do you have a church that you go to?
We do.
All right, so like which one is it?
Weddington, United Methodist.
Awesome. All right. So when you walk in, you might have like the lobby and the gathering space and some coffee area for people to gather. And then you'd have the sanctuary. It would be somewhat attached. I've not been in the building, but I'm guessing that's a similar setup, right?
Similar setup.
Yeah.
What I wanted to be comfortable and make sure that we were communicating properly, that's more of a function of a hospitality piece within the church itself. It's not necessarily an open as a coffee business on a normal day-to-day basis, correct?
No, it's not. I mean, like the goal is not to create a Starbucks.
Right, exactly. I just want to be sure.
The goal is that we have a place to meet people all week long.
Right.
Exactly. So like I'm certain that we're going to serve coffee every single day because I drink a lot of coffee. You know, and if I'm serving office hours there, that's where we'll be, and that would be a great gathering space for people to come and enjoy that space. So I certainly don't want to hide that. I don't think it's just going to be a Sunday morning thing. That would be like where our church office would kind of live, if that makes sense. We've got an office space right now, but you know, that would be a much more exciting place to meet people, sit out on the deck and some high top tables and have conversations. So certainly we're going to have coffee there all week, but we're not opening a Starbucks.
Well, exactly. I just want to be clear. We're not operating a business within the confines of what we're trying to do here. From the other board members, what are your comments or concerns, if any?
Are these existing buildings?
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me do this a little bit different here. Steve, go ahead if you will, and I'll run down the roll call.
Okay, are these existing buildings? Are they new?
Yes, Steve. The only building that's not existing is the little barn, which you've got elevations for. The rest are all on the property already. The big barn that would come in phase 2 is still to be determined on how that looks and is used, and we'll come back to this group when we're positive what that looks like.
Thank you. Walt, any concerns, questions?
I just want to know where the place that Ms. Matthews lives, that is until she moves or passes on, and then you're going to reconvert that or move it around or take it down. What are you going to do with that one?
So Miss Matthews is she's actually found a place to live, but since COVID, all of that moving has gotten, really paused. Miss Matthews is such a valuable part of this community. She's going to stay in that house until she wants to go. We love her, and she's obviously an icon in the area. If you know the Reed family at all, you know about Miss Dot. So we're very patient with her, and when she's ready to go, and I know she's ready to go, but just can't right now. But when she's ready, we'll reevaluate that house's use. I mean, right now it's all under church use. So the things that we're doing in that house still fall in line with what we're doing. Eventually, we'll probably take that house down. As you see in the master plan, we'd love to be able to grow that school at some point. I don't think it would be a full-on school. It really serves, if you're not familiar with what Thrive does, it serves the autistic, Down syndrome, and other exceptional children in our community, places that they don't get to go to other places. And so we said we wanted to create a space on our church where we would love those who don't have a school and don't have teachers that can work with them as well. So that eventually will be where that Thrive will live, is right around house number 3.
Okay, that was my question about that particular area. Thank you.
Jim?
No, I think he explained about the coffee. It's not really like a Starbucks, and it's not really the people that are commuting on Ray Road are going to pop in there for a latte. It's more like, I would assume, for church members and people that would have not business with the church, although I guess it's business with the church, right? It's sort of a secondary hospitality facility for the parishioners, etc.
Yeah, I would assume that if parishioners have friends that want to drop in and grab a coffee with them, they'll do that. I would assume that if I serve office hours there, that there may be some people that pop in off Ray Road and I pour them a latte. But again, we're not trying to open up a Starbucks. We're trying to create a space for, interaction with the congregation and the community.
Okay.
I can work with Matt on changing the term of that as from coffee shop to something.
Yeah, that may create a problem, just the terminology, but obviously it's a ministry of the church, and I think that's a wonderful thing. I just don't want to get a confusion level in any point. I want to be clear that that's more of a ministry piece of it. It's not necessarily a quote unquote business.
Well, this is Ed. I'd like to clarify that this is absolutely not a retail store.
Correct.
Right.
Not that it's not like it could be. It is not a retail store. Is that correct?
Well, under our zoning, I'm not sure who is speaking up right now because of the little line on the side.
This is Ed Goshiske.
Hey, Ed. No, under our zoning, that's not allowed. We're not attempting to
Correct.
rezone the property or anything like that. If that's what you're asking.
That's what I was asking. That just wanted to clarify. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, and again, I'm not interested in being sneaky or doing anything weird. That's not what we're about. We're trying to create a space based on how we can interact with people in a lot of different ways beyond Sunday morning. I've introduced this concept to you guys and to the board for the last few years that this is a different concept for a church. It's going to look different, and I want this board to be well aware that it's not a church in a steeple in a giant parking lot that's only active on Sundays. I mean, this is a different concept of leading people throughout the week in different ways and having lots of portals of entry into Christian community and deeper relationship with Jesus, which is my whole job. And especially in a world where the church is changing and largely seen as irrelevant, we are going to go about it in a different way. And so we're not opening a Starbucks.
Yep.
Absolutely not.
I just want to be, just so you understand where some of the thought process is in previous discussions, let's call it, not with this specific property, with other properties, others have led people to believe certain things that did not turn out to be the case. And so the board has just been a little bit more careful now of how things are done. So it really doesn't have any impact upon you specifically. We just want to gain clarity that exactly what it is and it's not. And you've been very good with answering those questions. And I appreciate that. But at the same time, the board wants to be very direct and make sure we're all on the same page of what is and is not allowed. And obviously you have a good, clear understanding of that, and we appreciate that.
Yeah, if you're looking for the question to be answered, is this an outward facing coffee shop? No. This is a place where people can grab coffee as part of our community, or folks that are interested in being part of the community, or maybe they drop their kids off at Thrive and they want to go sit and grab a cup of coffee while their kids are in school and do some of their work, just like they would in our church lobby. We have a campus off Providence Road that has something called Cornerstone Cafe, and we serve coffee, and there's tables there and high-speed internet for people to use, and that's a great way to interact with the community. So it's not really any different than that. It's just not attached to our little barn because, frankly, we want to make use of what's already there and be good stewards of the finances that are not as readily available these days as they were some years ago.
Lisa, we may want to work on terminology with that particular component, because that may create an issue, just the terminology, not the concept, but the terminology.
Well, we're glad to remove coffee shop off of that plan. When we went through this the first time, our architects, I think, labeled that as coffee shop, and we asked them to relabel it as a hospitality barn, and it looks like they just didn't change that part on the bottom. So if there's an issue with that, we're happy to put, instead of coffee shop down there, and farm to table, which the goal with that is that Harvest House is a place where we'll use the vegetable gardens to make food boxes and think of like a community garden. It's just sort of a way for us to have the ability to send that stuff from farm to people's tables. So
Tammy and Jim, do you guys have any concerns, or has that alleviated those concerns?
I have questions, and it's specific to the impervious surface, because it's hard for me to tell from this, but that's always a concern that I have when I see paving going in and or needed for parking spaces, although I see that you have some pictures that would indicate that you're using some alternative approaches to that. But can you speak to that at all? Because it's difficult for me to tell from this plan exactly what is going to be an impervious surface, because I know it's not everything in white. And I guess that would be my concern as this is moving forward. The amount of water that's going to be shed is very significant. And where's that water going? Because the retention not look, you know, from what I'm seeing based upon the amount of volume is nowhere near appropriate to address that. So can you speak to that?
Sure. Yeah. So we are looking at alternative ways to have water work here. I think if you scroll up, you can see what those kind of look like. Maybe you have that already. We're looking at a couple of styles of parking, not that far, Lisa, just the parking pictures. Looking at some places to keep it as green as possible. One of the folks that's on our board, Tammy, one of the folks that's on our board is John Dunlap, who's the Walden HOA president, which is the subdivision that is the L back behind our property. And early on, one of the questions that they had was, what were the possibilities of us if we have runoff, because it runs right through the middle of that property, to go into a retention pond that they could actually use to pump that water into their own ponds and other sources. And so he's actually on our board, and I was hoping he'd be in this meeting tonight, but I guess he was unavailable, to make sure that we have all of those pieces put together. And I know our civil folks are working to make sure that that all works right, but we're trying to stay as green as possible and make sure that we don't have that impervious surface exceed what it needs to, what it's supposed to via zoning. Again, all of this is written down, so we don't really have to make a decision about whether or not we stick to it. That's just part of the deal. We know what the zoning says about how we have to do it, and we're sticking to that.
Yep, Tammy, that was one of my concerns with everything so spread out. We have to get everything to flow to this low point, which is their detention pond over here. So anything over 20,000 square feet of impervious has to have a flood study. We'll get with their calculations, and they'll have to fully design a detention pond, erosion control plans, and all that through that construction. So,
and Lisa, at what point in the process does that take place? Because I mean, obviously they're spending a huge amount of time on this plan, and I'm trying to understand, when does that take place? Because, you know, it's a critical component.
yeah, so we'll have to do a calculation on this parking area, and they'll have to show us the numbers that this, if this is truly impervious. Right now, gravel is not. So any additional gravel is included as impervious. So this is an existing building. This is existing. I'm just talking phase one. They're gonna have to grade this entire lawn area, little barn area, and this parking area. They're gonna try to save those big oak trees out there. We gotta get the water to get to this low spot.
And Lisa, can you clarify, did you say that gravel is or is not considered impervious?
Is not impervious.
Okay, thank you.
Good questions. Thank you, Tim.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Yeah, this is Ed again. Just with this drawing up here right now, so what we are approving now is a site development plan for phase one.
Mm-hmm.
And so the road network that we're approving is essentially going to dead end at the end of phase one there as it loops up to the top of the page. I'm just wondering, what's the access to the hospitality barn? Is there existing road access, or?
There's an existing driveway next to that house right there that goes all the way down to that hospitality barn. There's kind of just a gravel drive that's already there.
Okay.
That's the reason for the fire truck turnaround, which is like close to the word phase you see there. That's that little area eventually can go away once the whole loop goes in place.
Okay, and the other question I have is, you know, we have a master plan for the entire site, which I really appreciate. Is the parking that's shown here sufficient for the intended use for the ultimate build out of this property?
Yes.
So when you're looking at the big barn and what you're anticipating as a function there's sufficient parking to meet all those needs.
That's correct. And I think that's outlined just a little bit higher. I'm sorry, Lisa, the other way. Right at the bottom of page 1, where it shows the total parking
Okay.
space. It says it's assumed that the main worshiping space will share parking with other buildings on the campus.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else?
I have a quick question. Most of the questions were already answered, Tammy. You basically asked exactly what I was going to ask with the water runoff. My only other question is, do you have an estimated timeline as far as, I mean, that project looks pretty extensive. Do you have an estimated timeline as far as completion? And are you going to start, obviously phase 1 is phase 1, but is there phases within phase 1 to kind of gradually, or is it going to look like it's because there is a lot of landscaping, a lot of grading. Just curious to see what that corner area is going to look like for how long.
So this front area that's up by Ray Road and the Walden, or the Walden at Providence subdivision, that what you're talking about?
No, what you're saying for phase 1 for the approval once it goes.
Yeah, so phase 1, gosh, Jennifer, if I had my way, we'd already have broken ground and be rolling. But at the same time, we're also well aware that the pandemic itself is causing some significant changes in timelines. So I would throw out, we would love to have phase 1 completed by next summer. I mean, I feel like if everything went lightning speed, could we have that little barn and the drive set up by next spring? I'm sure. But again, I just don't know about timelines right now. I don't know how quickly we'll be able to get people out. I don't know what that project load looks like. Our architects have calls out to engineers and builders to get some bids and ideas about what would it take to do all this. And, we're still waiting on all of those timelines to come through. As far as getting to phase 2, is that the second part of your question?
Well, my question is more of based on obviously funding and getting contractors and things, that my concern is once you start, you may have to stop, and then how much of that time stops and the project kind of goes on hold. It's more of, I don't want to, the community kind of see it half done. I don't expect it to always be busy, but I guess I would hate for you to start it and then unfortunately have to stop the process. So yeah, I guess that's, do you have an estimated time frame of once you start?
You can never predict everything, right? I mean, gosh, I'm in ministry, and I can tell you that if I could predict the future, I would probably be a little different.
Matt, let me ask you a little different way.
But I will say this: we're not interested in making the town of Weddington less beautiful. We're interested in making the town of Weddington look great, and we wouldn't set anything into motion that we couldn't finish. We wouldn't do things halfway and be like, okay, now let's try to raise another $50,000. Our goal is to have the money in hand and be able to do what we're going to do all the way from start to finish. That's the way we've set up our project. And that's partly why we probably won't get to this big barn phase 2 for a few years yet. And again, all of that depends on how well this goes, how quickly it gets up, and then how well we can use it. Obviously experts vary on how long the pandemic's going to keep us from being able to meet safely. But I think even when we can meet safely, the post-traumatic stress from not being able to meet and having gone through a pandemic is going to change things too for us. So we're not rushing, but we're also not going to start it and not finish it.
Thank you.
Brad, when you're ready for the vote, we'll need a vote for a recommendation and to adopt that land use plan consistency statement.
Brad's muted.
Can I ask one more question? This is Tammy.
Yes, Tammy, please.
There's no north, south, east, west orientation on this? Is the top of the page north on this? Or can you just?
The top of the page is roughly west.
Okay.
So I don't know I think I was muted for a minute. So Matt, this is Brad again. to follow up with Jen's concern, and I think we're all about the same piece. The objective is you're not going to start the project. You can have enough funds in hand guaranteed you can complete phase one. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's the plan. I think the things that if you look at that phase one, there are some things that, we probably will try to do as a congregation. Like you see the wedding in the woods. It's basically like kind of some wood benches in the woods, kind of amongst the trees, or we could have a little outdoor worship space for small weddings. I think the playground that's in between. Some of these are depending on how big or small we're gonna make them, right? So the playground would be on that lawn. That's probably one of the variables, but for all intents and purposes of what you guys are looking at, the answer is yes, Brad. We will seek to have all those funds in hand and then begin breaking ground.
Okay. If all questions have been answered, Lisa, again, we need to accept the statement prior to the vote, correct? So that way it's attached to that?
You can do it at the same time, up to y'all.
Okay. So if everybody's comfortable, can I have a motion, please? I need a motion to have a vote.
I'll make a that we
Steve?
approve the drawing as such.
Okay. Karen, did you get that?
That was a motion to make a recommendation of approval for the conditioning zoning amendment for Christ South.
Yes. All right. Steve made the motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. So we're going to vote in roll call fashion. So Steve, since you made the motion, I assume you approve.
Yes.
Okay. Ed?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Jen?
Yes.
Tammy?
Yes.
Walt? Walt, are you still there?
Walt's muted.
Okay. Let's
Yes.
Roll in and find Walt here. Walt, do you approve?
Yes.
Okay, great. All in favor, as everybody's approved, motion passes.
Then we'll need a second motion to adopt the land use plan consistency statement.
Walt, would you make that motion, please?
So moved.
Okay, let's go back down the same roll call.
Second.
All right. So
Second.
Steve seconds and he approves. Walt made the motion, so he approves. Tammy?
Yes.
Jen?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Okay, all in favor and everybody voted on the affirmative. Thank you. Lisa, is anything else we need to address with this particular applicant?
That's it. We'll get the coffee shop terminology settled and we're good.
Great. Matt, I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. Thank you all so much for the work that you do and for keeping this whole thing all running in the right direction. You all are always underappreciated, and appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Well,
Thanks, Matt.
All right.
And Matt,
Thanks,
I
Matt.
think it's a very interesting concept that you're pushing here. And I would want to congratulate you and your team for coming up with this novel idea.
It's all about reaching people for the Lord, Steve. We just hope we can stay relevant and help the church to expand and reform and do all the cool things that the Lord's been doing for hundreds and thousands of years before us.
Well, keep it up.
Okay, moving on to
Yes,
new
sir.
business. Item A, discussion of Unified Development Ordinance and presentation from Town Attorney Kevin.
Brad, I'll do a quick introduction and then hand it over to Kevin. At the last meeting, we discussed what a UDO is, Unified Development Ordinance, and we discussed doing the 160B changes, which is the combination of the municipal state statutes, planning statutes, and the county statutes, and what they are requiring. It was originally due by the end of the year, and that has since moved back to, I think, August of 2021. So we have some time to get this done. But with that, I'm going to hand it over to Kevin. Kevin is one of our legal partners with Brigg & Watt and Snover. I've worked with Kevin for probably over 6 years. They are the town attorneys for Indian Trail, and Kevin has Mint Hill. They have Cornelius. I'm missing one, I believe.
Down at Cramerton.
Cramerton. But Kevin is a land use plan guru, so we're in good hands here. And with that, I'll turn it over.
Thank you, Lisa. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for meeting with me virtually. I'm going to be in this virtual situation with my family situation for the foreseeable future. So appreciate you all being able to meet this way with me, and we're going to try to tee up today. We've got a good bit of work coming, and I did just want to take maybe 15 minutes or so, and I can be here as long as you all want to this evening to answer questions. But I really wanted to just tee up and level set with all of you as we get started on the heavy lifting of this UDO project, just to make sure we are all on the same page and hopefully execute the assignment of doing this UDO in an efficient and effective way for the good of the order of obviously the town and its citizens and property owners. So what I'd like to do is just high level set on scope. Okay, talk about exactly what the scope is, and Lisa's already tapped on that. Review what changes we are planning to make as part of this UDO exercise, and then spend a good bit of time going over just what the timeline is that at least I'd like to think we can go ahead and get this finished with you. And I may have just skipped over number 3 going real quick. I'll give you a brief overview of what the whole ordinance will look like in a few pages instead of the 300 pages that I'm about to send you in a few days. So with all that said, let me start with scope, okay? It's kind of 2 parts, all right? Kind of what is the reorganization going to look like? And then number 2 is what is the changes? Lisa mentioned to you the whole purpose of the UDO is to unify your existing development ordinances that are in the Weddington Code. Okay, hopefully it'll be organized in an easier to use fashion for you all, for staff, for me, for the council, for the citizens, for neighbors, for developers, for everybody. If we do this well, we'll end up combining your zoning ordinance, your subdivision ordinance. You've got a couple stray provisions elsewhere like lighting, and get that all in one well-organized document that hopefully is very easy for everybody to follow and use. And then the other part of this is we do have this exercise. Lisa mentioned that the state statutes have changed, and you've seen the reference to Chapter 160D of the state statutes. That's a fairly recently adopted rewrite of development laws for the state. It might be fair to call that, a UDO at the state level. They try to combine things in a single section of the statute. And so we have to update our ordinances to comply with any changes the state has made in 160D. So we're going to try to do these things at one time, right? We'll comply with 160D, and we will improve the organization of all your existing ordinances kind of in one fell swoop. Okay. That's what I didn't say there is not really intending to make any changes with that part of it, right? That's just streamlining and improving existing provisions. I hope we'll end up with slightly less words for you rather than more if that goes well. Okay, so starting point is a modernized, well-defined ordinance, but I say no changes. There is a bucket of very important changes that we do want to make as part of the scope. And these are going to be changes to the development approval process for your residential developments. So Lisa, I might get you to take a quick flash to the next slide. So what Lisa has pulled together here is a little bit of a picture of what we'll end up saying in words in the ordinance is the process that would be proposed for the conservation development residential subdivisions. I'm going to stop using the word subdivision. I'm going to call the conservation residential development, and then the process for a traditional residential development. You'll see the steps are close to the same of what you have now, but what we're trying to do is to move the elected officials' review and decision process early in the process, and that will mean you all will be early in the process, where the site-specific development plan is reviewed and approved by the town board. And I'm going to say before there's a significant investment of time, money, and energy in construction drawings and moving forward. So the idea here would be that you all would have input early in the process. The town board would have input early in the process, and then you all would be done. And that the steps that are really just executing the approved plan would just be handled as an administrative matter by staff, which includes, of course, confirming compliance with what's been approved by the town board. But the idea would be to never put the town board in the position, or you all for that matter, in the position of reviewing and taking time and energy on things that you don't really have any input at all to do. I would like to not to have to ever say to you all, well, you have to do this. There's no point in reviewing this. It has to be approved because it meets all the pre-existing ordinance requirements. We want to move these touches in the public process to the beginning of the development process. And the correct label for that type of process is called conditional zoning, where you would ask folks to do a rezoning from the underlying residential district that presumably would allow at some level the traditional development, if they want to do that. But if they want to do the conservation development where they have smaller lots and conserved open space, that would be of importance enough for you folks to really study it and get the public involved and get neighbors involved and go through the conditional zoning process for all conservation development. And then similarly, for the traditional development, we had some discussion at our work sessions with the town board about what size of development was big enough to trigger a conditional zoning process. We spoke about and kind of at least tentatively settled on the idea of 10 or more lots would go through a conditional zoning process. Again, that would be subject to your review and recommendation, and ultimately the town board working collaboratively with the developer to vote up or down on the developer's plan. But that under 10 would be handled administratively and quote by right for the terminology that equals administrative. So these process changes will also be included in the scope of this UDO project. So to recap that whole introduction, what this scope should be is existing ordinances, well organized, consistent with 160D, plus these process changes, moving the reviews earlier into the overall development process and eliminating reviews at the back end of the development process when decisions have in effect been committed to. So I think I will pause there. There may very well be questions over that. That's a quick rundown. We spent 2 work sessions with the town, town council going over all that. So, and I would, if you're certainly welcome to go. At least I think there's video of that, right? And some materials if people wanted to see that. But let me pause there if you have any questions for Lisa or myself.
I'll leave the board to ask any questions.
Yeah, this is Ed Goshiske. Just so I understand, so onto this new UDO, if a developer owns a 50-acre parcel and wants to do 1-acre zoning, they would still have to go through a conditional rezone process? And-
Yes, sir.
and okay. And that's different from today?
So today, this is an area that I find a little confusing in your ordinance. I believe the history is a little while back, you all removed some of these quasi-judicial hearings out of some sections of your ordinance. Right now, you all have multiple steps where you all or the town board has reviews that are not called conditional zoning. They're not really called anything. And so I would think in a lot of cases, I'm going to give you some legal thoughts on the fly, is I would think if we ever got in a legal dispute off a current approval, one of the things that would be disputed is, well, what process were you all using? Okay, because it's not very clear in our ordinance whether we're intending to use an administrative process, a quasi-judicial process. I think the intent is no, we're not intending to use quasi-judicial. And then conditional zoning. And so, for example, when you all are looking at construction plans right now, and Lisa, just check me and make sure I'm not missing terminology here, but you know, as it stands right now, you all might look at construction plans, and I would describe that review as administrative in the sense that there's really nothing discretionary. There's not supposed to be public input. There's not supposed to be a lobbying effort to the elected officials on it. So in that sense, it's not legislative, and it's more administrative. If the rules are followed, they should be approved. But we still are asking the legislative body to look at those, still asking you all to make recommendations when, again, I think in the end, there's nothing to do there except to confirm whether it complies with the existing rules or not. And so my perspective on it is, from working at other places, that you all have some extra touches in the process that are not labeled clearly as to what process we're intending to go through. So again, my goal here, both for ease of review and I hope it'll be a win-win for neighbors, citizens, and all of you, and it also happens to be good law, to have a clearly legislative rezoning process that's for sure allowed at the front end, and an administrative process at the back end. And just to add to that point, one of the little details in 160D that is new is it actually says that the subdivision plat exercise of dividing property into multiple lots. And again, I'm not talking about allowing a development in the first place or the zoning to allow a certain type or style or density of development, but the mechanics of the plat approval, okay? That includes confirming that you're in compliance with zoning. The statute actually says that has to be administrative if it's handled by staff, or quasi-judicial, which means the little mini trial with sworn testimony, if it's handled by the elected officials. So I think the idea would be that let's have the town board make legislative decisions. Let's make the zoning board of adjustment do the quasi-judicial decisions, and let's have the staff do the administrative decisions. And then let's make the policy decision. And this is this is why I had the work sessions with the town board, so we were crystal clear on where we wanted to go with this, is let's make a policy decision about what types of development have a big enough impact on the community and neighbors where we are willing to, and feel like it's appropriate to have a development go through this more robust conditional zoning process with public input, with y'all's recommendations, with staff input, and that we draw a line for things that fall into that category, and then things that do not fall into that category end up being by right or administrative. And so the discussion fell to 10 or more lots, and I like 10 or more lots. I think it, I mean, I'm certainly comfortable with that. I'd be comfortable with it being a little bit lower. If you want, somebody want to end up going to 8 or 6, the lowest I know of anybody in the state is 4. You know, there'd be other ways to do it. You could do a density type thing of if half-acre lots or acre lots are allowed by right. But you know, 10's a approximately good number. Where I think you can feel comfortable that your set rules in advance are very likely to cover any of the town's concerns or neighbor concerns. But again, that's the whole idea there is to get some universe that's by right, another universe that's conditional zoning, and really that's it.
Okay, I got it, and I agree that, yeah, we should not be, as part of a site development plan, reviewing detailed landscape drawings and site distances of headlights and I've seen details in other municipalities where they just drill into all this little detail at a very early phase. So yeah, I'm good with this. Thank you.
Very good. I do think, you know, look, I've worked with private sector folks. I've been on the presenting side to municipalities, and you know, we represent, you know, five municipal governments now. And look, if done well, what you'll see is you'll really increase your chances of a very cooperative process between you all, neighbors, and property owners, if you can kind of get to things early. I mean, you can tell people no early before they've got a lot of time and money invested. If it's something that's just not making good sense to you, it's sure better to say no early in the process than late after somebody's, you know, invested 6 figures worth of money on it. And then just going the other way with it, if you've got a good process in place that folks are used to, and the private sector is used to this, if it's early enough in the process, I think you'll get really good dialogue, and the best developers will go to a good bit of effort to have good community meetings. And you'll hear a developer's attorney speaking a lot like I'm speaking to you about trying to find win-win-wins and find ways the best they can to meet the town's plans, the neighbors' concerns, and develop the property in a fair way conducive with, you know, individual property rights. So I'm recommending something that I feel like can definitely be the win-win-win.
All right, thank you.
Okay. All right. So again, scope will be reorganized, make easier to follow, implement these process changes.
Anybody else?
Supposed to be in our handout?
I'm sorry?
The screen we're looking at, is that supposed to be in our handout?
It's
Lisa,
not. It's not. I can send it to you, Steve.
I'd like to see it. I think it looks very interesting.
Will do.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions for Kevin?
All right. Well, Lisa, let's go to the next slide, and we'll do just a quick touch on the kind of what this ordinance will look like, and then kind of go over this development schedule, the adoption of the ordinance schedule. So here, let me tell you all what I'm planning with you. Okay. I mentioned a few minutes ago about trying to dovetail this with 160D, the statute. Okay. So let me kind of let you in behind the curtain of what we're doing on organizing this. Okay. 160D has 14 separate articles and sections in it. Okay. The state legislature decided to set it up that way. So it's a whole chapter, and they got basically 14 big sections. Okay. And I'm thinking I'm gonna pat myself on the back and Lisa on the back. I'm hoping that this idea is going to be a really smart one. We want to organize, what you're going to see is a UDO organized in exactly the same fashion as the state statute. Okay, so do I think the state statute is perfect? Not really, right? But it's a really well done. I mean, it is pretty well done. It reads pretty well. It was written by, it's actually written by mostly by some land use attorneys and folks at the School of Government at Chapel Hill, working with legislative staffs. So it had a lot of statewide input. So my thought is we take the structure that the state has already set up and we track it here. And so what that should do is it's got some sense already because somebody else thought about it that seems to be working okay. But the other thing I like long term is that if the state makes changes to the statutes, we'll be able to easily cross-reference into ours when we need to make changes. And back the other direction, if we have some changes we want to make, it should be super easy to do the work that I do behind the scenes with ordinance changes. Is it still in compliance with state statute? What do we need to do? So I think that will help us down the road. So I need to share that with you because let me run through this overall schedule here with you because you're going to see me referencing articles 1 through 14, and that's how I came up with 14. It wasn't my idea. It's what the state statutes are doing, okay? So here's what we've got. We have had 2 work sessions with the elected officials just to be sure of the scope, right? Just to make sure we're all together there, all right? And what I intend to get you by the end of the month, September 1st, is a first draft of Articles 1 through 6 of this UDO, all right? And then during September, I am going to start working on Articles 7 through 9 while you all are reviewing 1 through 6. And then we'll line up your work session, your meeting at the end of next month that you all can go over 1 through 6 and have, we'll have to work out how I'm assuming you may submit some comments and questions in advance of the meeting to Lisa and kind of work with her on pulling together an agenda. And then we'll start staggering this, okay? So you'll do 1 through 6 in September. Then you'll get 7 through 9. And you'll tag 7 through 9 at your October meeting, okay? And this is the fastest track. It's possible, I think, that will be sufficient for you. I think it's possible. And when you actually look at the articles, you'll see why I'm saying I think 10 through 14 is going to be a nothing. That's just going to be existing stuff that you all will not end up feeling like you need to take much time on. So my fast track plan is to stagger these meetings with you and give you kind of a portion and then another portion to review, and that we circle up and you all get the next set coming in, and I'll go back and make revisions, and then we'll end up in the end with a clean final draft that is ready for a public comment period. Elected officials can look at it. We can kind of have that out in the public space for a little while, kind of over the holiday time or in November and December. Now, having said all that, that is super ambitious, okay? And while the scope is really, I think, something that's etched in stone for all of us, that we need to execute that scope, I think this schedule, we have a little bit of flexibility on, that if you all get this first batch and say, Kevin, this is silly, this is way too much, it's more than we can get digested in this time schedule. I mean, Lisa, my sense is we could, if we need to take more time than this to do it, we can do it. Whether you all want to add some extra work sessions, whether we want to build in some extra time if need be, I think we can. I would say for myself, my goal would be to not rush it so much. I mean, I would really like you all to unanimously be very comfortable with this, right? My goal would be a unanimous vote and recommendation that you all feel like you've understood it, that you've had a meaningful chance to give input, and that the final draft product that goes into the public space, that you all feel really good, that you've had your fingers on that you understand what it is. And if people ask you questions, that you all feel very comfortable answering them, and that you all really feel like, I mean, I want it to be a real recommendation. Let's put it that way. I think that's got to be real important that you all take, you know, a reasonable amount of time to work through this with us. And
Kevin, my first thought about it is that's a pretty ambitious plan. I know how long it took us to go through the land use plan,
I understand.
and that was a pretty arduous task to go through there. And obviously, part of that is kind of streamlining, I'm going to use that terminology, within the Unified Development Ordinance to get to that. And I think because of we have a lot more restrictive covenants here, let's call it, use that terminology, than some of the other towns, such as Charlotte or Mint Hill or some of the other towns. And so although the baseline and the scopes there, the actual details is going to be, from my perspective, is going to be a lot more arduous to go through to be sure we covered all of our specificity here for our unique situation.
So I understand that. Now, let me share one more detail, and that question and comment is very aligned with what the elected officials were saying, by the way. Let me share with you what I am intending to send you later this week. Okay. What I have done already is I have taken 160D, the North Carolina General Statute, with its 14 articles, and I have gone through your zoning ordinance section by section and have done a cut and paste of every section in your zoning ordinance and just copied it verbatim with no changes, okay, into the appropriate section in 160D. Okay. And so if this were a sculpture, that would be like the big rock of granite that we're starting with. Okay. Is that I've got all the state statute and I have all of your development ordinances, right? Now this would completely flunk the idea of it being streamlined, right? This is maximum number of words, right? Every state statute word, every word verbatim with no change. Okay, so you know I've not changed anything yet, right? And I'm going to send that to you. And folks, it's going to be like between 300 and 400 pages. Okay, so just to pause for a minute over like how on one hand that this could be hard. All right. But what I'd ask you to do is, I mean, you're welcome to take more than this, but I would just ask you to take 30 minutes to an hour, just enough to familiarize yourself with what I just described so you can actually see what I'm describing to you, right? And then I think what'll happen is you'll see, okay, it'll be the first time you've looked at the state statute, right? And you'll see that in one color. And then you'll see highlighted your ordinance in it, and just enough to convince yourself that I've done what I'm telling you I'm going to do, and you can kind of understand that starting point. And the other thing I'm going to send to you is a table of contents or an index that says existing zoning provision and where is it going, right? So while, in addition to me doing drafting for you, my intent at the end of this project will be every ordinance provision that you have as an existing provision identified in a summary table that we can say, all right, here it is in the new ordinance. We deleted it all together. We did this, we did that. It'll be an annotated version. So you'll have a cheat sheet to say, what did we do with such and such? Okay. It's right here. And so I am absolutely willing to pump the brakes on this and have this take, I'll say double the amount of time. I think our firm deadline is, I do think we need this done by next July 1. So at some level, I think we need to have enough meetings to make that happen. What I would just say is, why don't you take a look at this first pass and let's just see what Articles 1 and 6 look like. I probably have a higher degree of confidence than anybody else at this point of the ability to make this simple because I've spent the most time with it. But there's no reason in the world that you all should should think that right now. You absolutely should say that. And again, I'm really not trying to rush you. I'm just saying, I don't think it's ridiculous when you actually see it, because if I do it right, I'm not going to do a bunch of micro line by line changes. My intent would be existing language is okay. Existing language can be replaced with a reference to the state statute that says just follow state statute such and such. Or some things we throw away and say we don't need them anymore. Like, let's replace any of these stray references about, construction drawing, things at the council level, and just get rid of it altogether. So I would just, I am hearing you loud and clear that this may be way too ambitious given the volume. But I guess I'll also say, keep an open mind when you see it, and let's see whether the task is perhaps a little less over the top than we might think. I'm gonna share this with you too. And again, I've got kind of an advantage here in handicapping this because I've read that 160D. The one that's going to take more time is the Article 7 through 9 section of this. Just when we get into that's the zoning. That's where all the details are. And I almost in my first draft had double sessions for 7 and 9 lined up out of the sheet. So my betting odds for you is that 10 to 14 will take very little of your time. 1 through 6 will be a good test drive, and 7 through 9 is going to be the heavy lift. And if we expand in extra time, I can almost assure you it's going to be, if not 2 sessions, I mean, it might be 4 sessions on 7 through 9. That's the answer to your question. Hey, we've got a lot of details in the zoning that we want to make sure is in. That's put a little star by 7 through 9 because that's where it's all going to show up.
Okay. Anything else we need to address this evening, Kevin?
No, sir. I mean, Lisa, would the idea be, I think what I would just take from that is, let's get the first start of this done, get in the queue for Articles 1 through 6 at the next meeting. And I would say, let's just plan at the end of that, in addition to review and comment on that, let's just revisit this schedule at that meeting. And I would say you all provide comments and let's go ahead and make modifications to this at the end of the next meeting if we feel like we need to. I think that should just be part. All I would take is, let's just add that to the agenda for the next meeting, is a revisit of this slide and schedule.
Okay. All right. Lisa, anything else we need to address for that?
No, and I plan, if the meeting's light, if I see that the meeting's a light agenda, we'll try to do this work. Plan on an hour and a half, over the next couple of months, working just on this. If we have a heavy agenda, we'll schedule some work session meetings.
Okay. All right. Kevin, I appreciate your time this evening. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you all very much. And please, I was gonna say, definitely keep speaking up as we get through this, and let's, on these first touches, let's fine tune this and do this in a way that makes good sense for everybody as we go along. I sure appreciate it. And I'm looking forward to working with all of you.
Okay. Thank you, Kevin.
Lisa?
Yes, sir.
Walt? Did you have a question, Walt? Oh, I thought somebody else had a question.
Yeah, he's muted.
Walt, you're muted.
There you go.
Good now?
Yep.
Okay, can we get a copy of these slides? Because this is a great, it's a great map.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to item number 6, update from town planner, report from August town council meeting.
I don't have much. The council formed a alliance. It's called the Western Union County Alliance, Western Union County Municipal Alliance. It is a group of officials from Mineral Springs, Wesley Chapel, Marvin, Stallings, and Weddington. And it's a group that hopes to kind of advocate for our mutual interest in Western Union County and our goals, and kind of help communicate that to state or county officials. The council feels like as the municipalities could work better as a group than they do individually on their communication with the county and the town's interest and even educate and inform our residents regarding any concerns or issues. So they met for the first time last week and came up with a meeting schedule and a mission statement. And we look forward to getting some of that stuff out to you all. We'll have representatives present to that board, and then that group can bring back any ideas back to their councils, and then hopefully we have a united voice when we're speaking to the county or any state officials. I think one of the first topics with the county is going to be ETJ. That's a extraterrestrial jurisdiction for us to have zoning kind of outside of our town limits. We've had a lot of, I think we had 7 rezonings just right around Weddington's borders that tripled, quadrupled density more than what we would approve. So that's one of their first topics of discussion. But I'm sure they'll be pulling and asking you all questions and having you all attend some of those meetings. But we look forward to working with that group. That's all I have.
What'd you call that group again?
Western Union Municipal Alliance, WUMA.
Thank you.
All right. Any questions and comments from our planning board members? If not, we'll need a motion to adjourn.
Second.
I have a second. And all in favor?
Aye.
Hands. All in favor? This
Aye.
meeting is adjourned.
Aye.
Thank you. Appreciate it, board. Thank you very much. Thank you, Lisa and Karen.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody. Thank you.
Night.
Have a good night. Thanks, Kevin.
Good night,
Take care
everyone.
now. Yep, we'll see y'all.
Thank you much.